Good morning, everyone. Happy Tuesday. It is Tuesday, January 6th. It is 9:27 a.m. Eastern Time. This is Tom Alexander. This is the Live Trade Room recording, and we are coiled up in the NDX for sure, which is we'll see how that resolves. Not much to say. Fairly narrow range Globex session. So we'll see what happens here in a few minutes when the cash market opens. Okay, we're 10 minutes in, narrow range cash session so far. But again, only 10 minutes. Uh, I'm watching a daily chart very closely because we're so coiled up in the NDX and we're close to important levels in the ES as well. I mean, there's really nothing above yesterday's print high in the ES until you get to new all-time high ground. The Dow is acting well. The Russell is just below yesterday's close, but it's acting okay too. So I would be in general right now giving the benefit of the doubt to the upside. But if this thing turns around from here, I mean, I'm looking for volatility to increase here. I'm looking for more wide range. I'm looking for the NDX to break out of this incredible stasis that it's been in for 2 months. So we'll see here. I'm not going to get stubborn with the direction. I just want to follow the market here. That's the best course of action, especially in the present condition of the NDX slash NQ. Okay, this thing is heading higher. The NDX is still sort of in balance. We have a healthy session working, but it's now, if you're looking on a 1 minute chart, it looks super extreme. But if you go out in time frame, not so much. So there's a lot of room here for this thing to run. Now, is it going to go up like this all day long? Probably not. Now, we've seen the NDX do it all day long like this, but not in a while. But this is one, if you are long, you want to be riding at least part of your position. I'm going to show you a couple trades in a minute that I took. I'm out of some of my trades, I'm in others. And this sort of dovetails in with some of this prop shop stuff that I'm doing. I'm trading multiple accounts. You have different goals for different accounts because you have different stages, etc. And again, that's something we'll get into. But this now the Russell is actually right at yesterday's close. So it's again, this looks to me like more institutional positioning as we come into the new year. The Russell may be the buy, frankly, if you're playing the macro guessing game. Uh, we're going to have this fantastic bull run and interest rates are going to drop and there's going to be rotation in the smaller caps, blah, 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 all that narrative. Then the Russell has got to participate. Okay, it is 10:20. And let's look at a couple things. I'll show you a couple trades that I did. I'm still in a couple. I'm out of a couple. But let's take a look at the landscape first. Let's see. Okay, here is the 30-minute chart. Now you can see we're coming up into an area of volume on the horizontal scale. I guarantee you, if you're looking at book map, there's all sorts of clouds and orbs and colors and lines in this area because of magical gamma gamma jamma reasons, people having orders perched here, basically is what it boils down to. Okay, that's all fine and good. Let's look at the cash daily charts. Uh, and now the Russell, again, I mentioned the Russell earlier. You may want to take a look at the Russell on the Russell micro. It's not doing anything. It's if we're going to have, I just this range is going to expand up or down. Now, here is the Russell, I mean the NASDAQ NDX, and it's trying to get through this area. I mean, there's just so much, I dare I say the word resistance. I hate to say that. I hate that word, but you know what I mean. You understand the context. There's a lot of horizontal volume here, and that can be resistance. It can be support, but it is an inflection point. So once again, here we are. And also look at the previous highs in this area. One, two, three. This is the fourth time we've tested this area. If we get through here, you've got this big gap, and then there's not much left. Then the odds are increasing that we're going to get through this and we're going to rip higher. Now, once again, the most important level is going to be from what has just occurred, and that happens to be today's session low. So I would be favoring long trades. Market is unlikely to go up at this rate of change. This is not a particularly wide range cash session, so there's a lot of potential left in this trade. Okay, here's the SPX. Also, the SPX now is pressing against an all-time, this is an all-time closing high. We're right at it. So you get through here, and the next thing is the all-time print high. The Dow is already ripping higher. It's already an all-time high ground. So everything is on go here to the upside as of this moment, based on information at hand. Even on our shorter term charts, 30-minute charts, whatever time frame, intraday time frame you want to use, the trend is up. We're making higher highs and higher lows in all time frames. Uh, we're above the moving averages. We're above VWAP. We tested VWAP this morning. And that's an interesting case study. I'm going to show a couple of different things. I'm going to go down to let's go to a 1 minute chart. Let's see. Okay, here's a 1 minute chart. Where's my VWAP? I thought I had my VWAP on here. Let's see. Okay. Now this is the quote unquote setup that George uses, that he has back tested and found to be very effective in his trading. And George, if you don't mind me sharing this, I mean, I don't think it's any big secret type of thing. George is doing this basically the same thing that we're all doing, or I'm doing, except he's using VWAP. And in this particular instance, you can see how VWAP came down here and tested this level, that it broke through this. I think George uses a 7 period moving average. It doesn't matter what period moving average you use as long as you're consistent. But George has put this together in an elegantly simple and replicable manner. This is not hard to figure out, and it works. Now you can do variations of this. We're all discretionary traders. We're all going to have more or less, we at the tactical level, we can all do different things. I like this VWAP because I'm finding it useful information, and it just makes sense. It's logical to want to be on the price side of VWAP because it's the volume weighted average price. And we can get into what that actually means and what is constituted in volume, et cetera, et cetera. But generally, you cannot argue with especially as a day trader, you generally want to be on the price side of VWAP. Now, obviously, VWAP, price is way above VWAP, and I'm sure there are different ways to trade this. There are people out there that are fading the shit out of this right now because it's third standard deviation away from VWAP or something like that. That's fine. That's not my style. I would rather be, I'm looking at those daily charts, and that's what sort of dictates to me what might be quote unquote overbought or oversold. And in particular, the NDX is coiled up here. So I don't care if we're third standard deviation away from VWAP on a 1 minute chart. If I'm looking on a daily chart, this thing has a lot of potential. Now, we'll see how that turns out. But anyway, so this is VWAP this morning. Now, I want to show a couple of charts, other charts of these accounts, my Monopoly Money accounts. Uh, let's see here. Okay, let's go over here. All right. So this morning, and I've done several trades in different accounts that I'm trading, but this is one. So this morning, and I was a little late to the party. I, I was late getting started this morning, but the better entry here, and increasingly, I've gone back and looked at this, and increasingly between 8 and 9 o'clock, you can get a directional tell. And the better entry for this was probably to have bought this or just to go along with the stop here and then grit your teeth and stay out of the noise. Well, when we gapped up in here or we opened up and started ripping, I went long and I added here. Now, normally I probably would have been stopped out of this trade. And this is an instance where incorporating VWAP into what I'm doing kept me in the trade. So I had quite a loose stop. So I was down here initially below this level. Now, I probably should have added when we went, but the number of trades that I execute perfectly over the course of a year, and there are probably thousands of them, probably comes out to one or two. So anyway, I like to go back and hindsight things, but this worked. And as I've always said, if your trading plan, your trading system, your day-to-day trades require perfect execution, you're going to lose money. Well, I've learned that, so I don't expect perfect execution out of myself. I want to give myself a large margin of error, and the way I trade generally does. Okay, another topic. So we got in here, and this was one of these accounts where, and I'll get into this, these prop shop things, you have goals to meet, certain parameters, and once you meet certain goals, depending on where you are in the account, there's no point in making more money. So this met my goal for this account, so I got out. Now, in another account that I'm trading, I'll show this. This is what's cool about these prop shop accounts. You have multiple accounts and you can trade them. You can use different strategies. You can be more aggressive in some than others. You're always trying to meet goals in these accounts, and you switch from one account to another, et cetera. And again, that's a whole other topic, but let me show this now. This is another account. There's an interesting sort of sub story to this one. So I'm trading this, and obviously I don't have my VWAP here, but I have the VWAP on another screen. You just saw it. So on this account, uh, I had a better entry. So I got in early here. Now you can see I have a quantity up here. Well, my quantity this morning was set on 10. I didn't know that because yesterday I was doing some stuff and I was trading larger contracts, looking for smaller moves. Well, I forgot to reset my contract. I generally enter with one or two. So right here, I had uh, I entered. I look up and I'm long 10 contracts. Well, I didn't want to be long 10 contracts. So I wanted to be long one contract. So I got out uh, of nine, and then I added one back in. I took one off here. I'm trailing a stop now. I'm going to give it a lot of room because again, this thing could double from here easily if we get through this area that we're floundering around in right now. So this is my limit, or I'm just sticking it up here in case we get one of these out of the blue air pockets for no reason to the upside. My stop on this position is way down here. Why is it here? Well, it's below this level. This is a target. They're going to run this very likely. As a general rule, I don't want to be on the wrong side of this longer moving average on the 1 minute chart. This is the 16, the 19 period moving average on a 5 minute chart. And, I'm going to try and work this trade, and I may be in this trade all day. I'll probably add to this trade. But again, this is one of these accounts that's in a different position with different goals than the account that I got out of. Uh, So that's what's going on here. The day does look positive. We're making higher highs and higher lows. That's it. We'll see what happens. Again, I'm watching on one of my screens. I have the daily chart up. I'm watching it like a hawk. By the way, it looks like the Russell is starting to generate a little upside momentum. So you may want to take a look at that. Okay, it is 10:49 and the furious ramp higher is now digesting. This is a 5 minute chart I'm showing on my screen. Uh, where we've come back into the slower moving average. This is the 19 period moving average on the 5 minute chart. This is the longer period moving average on the 1 minute chart. Okay. So a retracement back into this is perfectly normal. Uh, we have all this conviction in here, so they're sort of testing that level. I mentioned before we were going to take this out. Well, we did. That was an obvious target for the algos. It was sticking out like a sore thumb, so they're going to go down and get it, and they did. Now, ideally, this will hold, and we'll either balance in here or we'll go up and make higher highs. At this point, there's no reason in my mind to think this trend is ended. There is still a lot of potential in this trend. And the reason I say there's a lot of potential is because of the position of the indices on the cash charts, on the daily charts. Okay, short term, this is deeper than I like for the idea that we're going to have this ripping trend day. Um, this is a very deep retracement back into the range. We're what, 50% back into the range, something like that. Now the ES is approaching, it's below the moving averages I use. It's above VWAP, but it looks like they want to test VWAP, which is a logical occurrence. So somewhere in this area, you'd like to see this thing stop and head back up under a bullish assumption. So this is a test of that volume weighted average price right now. Now we can spike through it, but you don't want to stay below it for long. Now I don't already do not like the fact that we're below these moving averages because my experience is you don't want to be below these move, and we're on the 1 minute charts, we're making lower lows and lower highs. So I don't like that. So hopefully they'll start to bounce this thing off this VWAP and reestablish higher highs and higher lows, but they're heading right into it at the moment. Okay, it is 11:05 and we are below VWAP now in the ES and the NQ. This is an interesting uh, sort of real-time case study for me in particular because I have never really used VWAP before, and I'm starting to use it now and pay attention to how it behaves, how price behaves around it. So to me, what VWAP is, and George, you have more experience in actual use than I do, so you feel free to correct me or chime in here. But VWAP could be considered, in my mind, sort of an inflection point. Um, and we're right there now. So this is, to me, this may be a test of are we actually going to go higher here in the NDX, or is this thing going to crater? Because again, I am so focused on the NDX because I think it's a real key here. And I think there's huge potential for the NDX to trend for days. And you know, I've been long the NDX or was pretty much all day. Uh, and to this point. Now I'm flat and I'm watching this very closely. If we take out today's low, which it looks like now they want to do, you got to be favoring short trades. Now, at today's low, you'll probably get pushback. That'll be another inflection point. But this is interesting, interesting, interesting. Hey, Morg, there's no input. it's a moving average of, it's a weighted moving average of volume. Now you can use different time frames, like I'm using a 1 day. You can do weekly, you can do monthly, etc. But for day trading purposes, and again, if George wants to chime in here, what he uses, I haven't looked at it beyond a single day. Probably be helpful to look at it over a week period. Uh, and I'm not using the standard deviation thing. I prefer to use, you know, previous days, highs, lows, et cetera, as inflection points as opposed to standard deviation. Now, I was poo-pooing those that were using standard deviation earlier. Those people can now laugh at me because it turned out that this thing stopped up there around that third standard deviation. That's fine. Uh, you just want to be consistent with whatever it is you're using. Okay, it's 11:17, and we're flirting with the lows off of the high. Now, when I come into the day, I usually have an opinion about what I think is going to happen based on the bigger picture. Now, when you come into a given day, there are two things that can happen, right? The market can trend or it can balance. So what I try to do, I try to think, okay, I am always tr giving the benefit of the doubt and trying to catch a trend. But if it's not going to trend, then I think it's going to balance. So I'll pick a side. Now, my side right now is still long. So I am playing for either a trend long or a balance from the long side. Now, so 2 out of 3, I've got a 2 out of 3 chance of being right. If I'm wrong, then this thing is going to trend to the downside. And if I am wrong, and it's going to trend to the downside at this point, the drop dead for my thesis is if we take out today's session low and things start to pick up to the downside, in which case I either stand aside, lick my wounds, or I start to trade from the short side. But I try to put myself in a position where my thesis allows me to be right if, you know, 2 out of 3 things happen. So there are really 3 things that can happen. It can go up, it can go down, it can balance. So I think it's going to go up or balance. So, you know, I can be right 2/3 of the time. And I'm wrong. I'm wrong a lot. You guys have seen that. So it's not like it's infallible, but that's sort of my overall arching macro view when I come into the day. What is this market going to do? Why? And how am I going to trade it? What's my orientation going to be? And sometimes I don't have one, but today I do. I'm favoring the long side of this thing until it proves me wrong. So now we are in a condition across the indices because you have the Dow at new all-time highs, you have pretty much everything flirting with new all-time highs, and you have the NDX that is stubbornly in balance, and it has been in balance for 2 months, more or less. It's gone net nowhere for 2 months. Now, there have been swings in there, and it's not a perfectly symmetrical pattern, but it's coiling up into a tighter and tighter wedge, and it is going to break. I want to be on the right side of that break. I don't see how the other indices, if the NDX breaks sharply, now maybe the Dow and the Russell hold up relatively well, but if I can catch a big break in the NDX, I'm going to try and catch it because it tends to be so volatile, and it has not been very volatile for the past, well, relative to the ranges, the intraday ranges have not been what they were off that April low since October. And I'm looking for some of that to change here sooner rather than later. Now, at the moment, we continue to flirt around this VWAP in both the NDX and the NES, NDX, SPX, and their futures. So this is an area to be paying attention. I'm favoring the longs in here. If you want to favor shorts, you can favor shorts against the you know, 19 period MA on the 5 minute chart. I mean, would be a legitimate trade. You have, as long as you can identify your lean, you know, that's fine. But I'm still favoring the long side of this market for now. Okay, it is 11:47. My bullish thesis is continues to be tested. Uh, we came down, we made a pivot low off of that high above the session low, below VWAP. We rallied. We came back down into that area between the secondary low, the low above the early low. And now we're rallying again. If we can get above this level, it would be positive for my overall thesis. Now, again, this market, yeah, I'm favoring longs, and at this point, it looks like it's going to be a balanced day, meaning I'm gonna trade from the long side, uh, as long as today's cash session lows hold. Uh, the trend day idea is on hold. Now we could trend late in the day, but obviously we're going to trend. We have to get above today's session high in the indices. That's a possibility because of the larger degree position of the cash markets, the primary markets that we trade, the NDX, SPX, Russell, and Dow. So that's where we are. I am long. Uh, I'm long the NQ, but the ES is in the same relative position. So if you wanted to buy the ES or the NQ here, your stop is that last little pivot low. Okay, guys, it's 12:25, and I still think we're the balance idea is still in play, and I think we'll probably have another short-term top here and retracement into this recent ramp. But I would still be trading it from the long side. I mean, if you want to play games and short this, your stop has to be somewhat arbitrary unless it's at the all-time high. But again, I'm trading this with the idea that this market is due to trend and due to break out to the upside, and there's substantial upside potential. Now, maybe I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, I'm still playing it from the long side, even if it's going to balance. I'm buying the dips. I'm not selling the dips. We're above the moving averages. We've reestablished higher highs and higher lows. We're above the VWAP. So my thesis is back from the dead. And again, I think you want to be trading this from the long side. Now I'm taking partial profits right now, but I am holding longs. Regardless of how deeply this thing retraces, uh, unless there's something unforeseen that I can't imagine right now. Like if we have some sort of news and this thing just gets destroyed, I'm going to be out. But I'm running a really, really, really loose stop on the remainder of my long positions because I'm hopeful that this thing is going to break it. The potential is for this thing to break above the day session high and really run. Now, as we all know, it's unlikely because of the time of day. Okay, we have 3.5 hours. It's not going to go up straight up for 3.5 hours. And I think this is part of a balancing. The recent lows now are going to be really important. I don't want to see those taken out, but as long as the dips are manageable and typical, I'm going to be I have a position trade on intraday, and I'm going to scalp from the long side to enhance that return. Now, I have done this before, and if I'm wrong, I'm going to give up I'll have some really nice gains. I'll give up all my gains and probably have a loss for the day in some of these accounts. But I have a two-thirds chance at this point, probably a little bit greater than that based on price action, of being right. So I'll take those odds. Okay, we are testing the highs in the ES, a little bit behind in the NQ, but this is going to be a lot of stops up here. So we're making higher highs and higher lows. You got to be favoring longs. And now I'm not going to be surprised if we don't get some sort of air pocket to the downside before we go ripping higher. However, we could go ripping higher, which is why I'm still long. I'm willing to endure the downside air pocket. The tenor of this market is very bullish at the moment. Okay, this is not a surprise. Ran the highs. Now we're back into the range, and you're sort of in the middle of nowhere here. We got super extended there, very short term. I'm still long, and I want to be cautious a little bit. I will be looking to add. I don't know if I want to add into this furious dip. It's probably a good time. I won't be checking because of the time of day. It's only 12:50, so there's 3 hours left in this thing. So, I mean, this to me is still within my thesis of up or balance. Now, balance can include a very deep retracement off of this too. So that's why I don't want to get too eager loading the boat here, but on the chance that it takes off. I'm already long. If that happens, great. If it doesn't, then I have some dry powder to get longer. Okay, guys, here we go. I'm still long. I have scalped this thing in this chop and churn to the upside because this is typically what happens. Frankly, I'm surprised we haven't had more of it. However, this sort of fits with my overarching thesis coming into today that we were going to see the NDX finally catch up. And it appears to be catching up. And it is acting like the NDX acts, NDX NQ, when it's in a trend. So it's been pretty relentless today. The retracements have been relatively shallow. I thought we might well spend time in that recent little chop and turn. I thought we might be in there for another hour or so. But the market again has a bullish tenor. The market condition coming into today was extraordinarily compressed, and they are just ripping the heads off of shorts at the moment. Okay, on my screen, I have the 5 minute chart up. I put the VWAP on here. And one of the cool things about VWAP is it doesn't matter what time frame you put it on your screen, it's going to show you the same information basis that time frame. So the VWAP here is showing 5960. Well, on a 1 minute chart, it's 5960 also. It's not like the moving averages. You sort of have to calibrate the moving averages. Like on the 1 minute chart, the red moving average you see here, which is a 19 period moving average. Well, on the 1 minute chart, that is equivalent to a 95 period moving average, which is a slower moving average on the 1 minute chart. Now, couple of observations here. Clearly, we're third standard. I think this is third standard. It's either second or third standard deviation above away from VWAP, but that's going to happen on a trend day. That's to be expected. That's why, to me, what we're doing in here, we're trading the option market and we're trying to identify market condition. And sometimes it's easier than other times, and sometimes you get it wrong. I get all that. But when you can get it right, it's just it itself it is a big edge in my mind. And today is one of those days so far. Now, I don't want to get complacent here, but let's look at the daily charts. Hold on. Okay, I want to go to the daily charts. Let's go to the cash charts. And here we are. Top left, SPX. Bottom, top right, NDX. Bottom right, Russell. Bottom left, Dow. Now the Dow is at all-time high ground, all-time print, et cetera, et cetera. The SPX is right on the cusp of an all-time print high. If we close here, will be an all-time closing high here or higher. Now, I talked about this earlier. The NDX is bumping against one, two, three. We're above three important levels. We're into this gap here. And we've had a tremendous amount of difficulty getting through this volume node. If we get above this volume node, I think this thing could very easily accelerate. And this is the all-time closing high right here. So now today is in the NDX from a cash perspective, it's a normal cash session range, nothing spectacular. If it gets spectacular, we'll probably see this level tested or taken out. So there's a lot of potential left in this trade. Now, what I want to continue to see to validate that from a trading perspective, you don't just blindly buy and close your eyes. As long as this market's making higher highs and higher lows, the balance areas form and then they break to the upside, you can be aggressive being long. But if something, who knows what, and it could be any number of things, if this thing turns around, you don't want to be stuck on stupid adding to this thing if it starts to break to the downside. Now we have a really pretty good lean now. That last balance area that occurred with the low at about one little after 1 o'clock, maybe between 1 and 1:15, basis the NQ. You don't want to see that taken out. Actually, probably shouldn't see it back into that level. But we have almost 2 hours left of the cash session. So a lot of things can happen. But again, right now, you're going to have traders that just rote fade everything just because it's up a lot, some measure or whatever. And, maybe that works. But I also will tell you, if you do that consistently, you will make money consistently, but you will always have that day, especially if you're not a facile trader and you don't understand what's going on, you don't adjust, where you wipe out your account. So I think the DCA thing, the dollar cost averaging thing, has to be there's as much, or to me, there's probably more skill required in doing something like that than there is in what we do. I mean, it's pretty clear for markets making higher highs and higher lows most of the time. You can see that pattern. You don't have to have, 40 years of screen experience to see if a market's above moving averages and making higher highs and higher lows. So to me, what we're doing in here, we're taking basic auction concepts and then applying as simple a strategy and a tactic as we can so that first of all, it's objective, it's replicable, it can be adjusted depending to your risk tolerance. You can trade with more contracts, less contracts. You can scalp it. A lot of different things you can do. But the base model is simple and fits and can be traded by even a novice. You don't have to know all this arcane bullshit that's out there about all this stuff. Okay, it's 316, just had a huge spike in the NDX. I have a small, I have one contract left. I'm just going to trail a stop, and it's pretty tight here. If I get stopped out, that's fine. We're coming into the final lap here. I don't want to have to endure some sort of air pocket to the downside that retraces 50% of the last leg up off of that 1 o'clock low. So, whatever happens here happens from here to the upside, or even if I get stopped out, it's all gravy. So, today has played out pretty much as I had hoped it might, and I have traded it relatively well. So, I'm gonna try and not be the greedy bastard and, try to squeeze every last tick out of this. But this is today is an important day in the NDX, and we still are not, I mean, there's still plenty of room to the upside here. We could have more ramp into the rest of this week. We could have more ramp into the close today. There's plenty of room. Now, the Dow, the SPX, and I'll look across the spectrum. I don't think the Russell was traded to a new all-time high. The Dow, the NYA, the SPX have all traded new all-time highs. So here now it gets important. The previous day's lows in the various indices become increasingly important. When you are in a trend, it is the previous day's extreme or the 2-day back extreme that are the most important levels and give the most viable signals and are the most important inflection points. That's on a day-to-day basis. Now, intraday, we obviously have these levels that the market establishes during the day that you can't know until the day starts to trade. There's no magic formula for the intraday levels tomorrow. Okay, guys, it is 3:58. We have less than 2 minutes left in the cash sessions for the day. Let's see here. All right, here we are. If you look on my screen, here are the cash sessions. Now, the NDX is going to close on its high or very close to it. We have a minute and 15 seconds left. I can't imagine it could do that much damage in a minute and 15 seconds. The Russell looks like it's going to close close to a new all-time high, if not a new all-time high. The SPX and the Dow are almost certainly going to close at new all-time print and closing highs. So the market is continuing to validate the bull trend. It's continuing to validate this particular little leg of the bull trend that began at the beginning of this year. So we're having a ramp kickoff into January. Now the Dow is already up 3.5% from
the 2025 close. That's a rate of change. It's unsustainable, but it can go higher. But it's a little bit of a musical chairs thing at the moment because we're getting closer to closer. Sometime, let's see, today is Tuesday, so sometime between now and the end of the week, we're going to have at least a short-term top in probably all the indices. Now, in the meantime, the NDX still has plenty of room to run to get to a new all-time high. Okay, cash market is now closed. It's 4 o'clock. So the NDX is still the one that I'm watching very, very closely as a tell. And if it turns around, I want to be short that. Now it's getting to the point where the others, you're thinking about changing your overall trade strategy because the thing is so vertical. So maybe going forward we go higher, but you're not looking for that ramping trend day like we had today. Maybe it's going to be a more balanced day. Maybe you're going to have deeper retracements, that type of thing. So we'll see. You guys have a wonderful evening. I will have a report out this evening, and I'll see you in the morning at 9 o'clock.